So what we're going to do here is we're going to write a program that will compare elements of of different objects. So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate a scenario here. So you don't have to copy this down, but it's really sets the flavor for this program. So it's a party at Hogwarts School of Magic and Things. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called from the books. So guests are playing the classic party game Compare Heidi. So you've probably experienced this before. You're at a party with a bunch of people, and a classic game is to just compare heights with each other and see who is the same height. So obviously, we would want a program to help us out with this. So what we're going to do is we are going to create three guests for our party, and then we will write a method that will compare their heights. So we've got Harry is going to be a guest at our party. So we're going to make it a new guest, and here we are going to be sending to the constructor the height of the party guest so that we can do this all together. So we've got Harry, we've got Ron, who, spoiler alert, is going to be the same height as Harry. And then we've got Hermione, who is going to be a little bit shorter here. Okay, so we've got these three heights put in. And then what we're going to do is we are going to compare them. So now before we do that, let's create the class, the guest class, that is really going to only have one piece of data, which is the height of that guest. So we're going to put in guest.java. And then here, so this is going to be public class guest. And now we're only going to have a single member for this one. So this is going to be the height. So private double height. And this is going to be in centimeters. When I do something like this, I often like to just indicate the unit that I'm using for this. So we'll start with, so in the methods, so the constructor method is just going to look like this. Public guest, and we'll be receiving the double height value from the main program. So we're just going to set the height, getting the value of height, and then that one will be created. Now, because we're going to need this piece of information, we are going to need to be able to retrieve the height from one of our objects. And because we've made it private, of course, we need to put a get height method here. So of course, this is going to be a public. That's going to be a double get height, and then it is just going to return the height value. And then we'll write a bit of our main program. So I'm just going to do a quick test here, make sure everything's in working order. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now in our main program, what we're going to do is we're going to write it in a similar way to the way that we compared strings. So strings, we used dot equals to get a Boolean result. So if Harry dot equals, and then we'll compare Harry's height to Ron's, to say if they're equal or not, and then we'll just put a little message if that is the case. So system.out.println, Harry and Ron are the same height. Okay, and then we can end that. Now, what we'll do is we'll put two more, to make a total of 3 comparisons. Now, of course, you don't want to put these as else ifs, because it's possible that if this is true, that this could also be true. Imagine a scenario where they're all the same height, and that just could happen. So we'll compare Harry and Hermione here. And then we will compare Hermione and Ron. There we go. Okay, so now we have to write the equals method in our guest class. Of course, if I tried to run this, I'll get that later. If I tried to run this, then it wouldn't work because we haven't created the equals thing yet. Okay, so now this is how it's going to work. It's public. We want to get a true or false out of this, so it's going to be a Boolean method. We're going to have it called equals. And now, what is it that we set here as a parameter? So in our main program, we are sending an object to the guest class. Now, there are a couple different ways to do it. What you're going to be doing is the standard way. So there's sometimes that we program things in a particular way just because that is the standard way that things are done. So what we're going to do is we are going to receive this as an object, and we'll say that it is G. So when we are getting objects from another part of the program, regardless of what object type we're going to have object here. We're not going to put guest here. It's going to be just an object. So then what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the height is equal to G dot get height. But what we want to do is we want to make sure, so if this is the case, we're going to return true, and otherwise we're going to return false. Now, I believe the program works properly if we do this, but what happens is, and this is one of the situations where you create levels of protection so that the user doesn't do something silly to your class. So potentially they could, in the main program, if we had like another class and they made, say we had a class vegetable, and they had, this won't make sense. Don't type this in. So vegetable cabbage equals new vegetable. And for some reason that made sense. What they could do is they could send cabbage here. Now, it would not crash the program because it is being received as an object, but cabbage won't have a height value. So this is again where we're going to put in layers of protection to prevent our class from causing the entire program to crash. I believe I had Ron here before. Yeah, there we go. So what we're going to do, and we've done this before, if we had an integer value, say if we had 3 divided by 4, now what that would do is give us 0 because 3 is less than 4. So what we wanted to do typically is typecast 3 as a double. So what we're going to do here is something called object casting. So in order to prevent, a cabbage from coming in here and crashing our program when it gets to this step, what we're going to do is we're going to make whatever object we get from the main program, we are going to make sure that it acts like a guest. So even if we got a cabbage, it would work totally fine. So here's how we typically do this. We're going to create a new guest object here. And it's going to be called temp guest because we're really only using it for this purpose, and then we want to get rid of it. So we're going to make that equal to G. But if they put a cabbage here and then we try to put that into a guest object, it's really not going to like that. So what we do is we object cast it by making whatever object we get is going to act like a guest, and then the guest version of that object is going to be stored in our temporary guest. So temp guest is going to be the comparison here. So now if I run the program, here's what we get. Harry and Ron are the same height. So this did work correctly, and this is the only true statement that we get. So let's take a look at one more thing that we can do that will be new for this program is we're going to reconstruct one of our objects. So at this point in the party, system.out.println, we are going to have Ron drinks the polyjuice punch. So what this is going to cause is Ron is going to turn into one of the other party guests. So the way that this is going to work, and just to show that you can do this thing, we are going to reconstruct Ron at this point. And occasionally in your programs, you will want to do this. So Ron is going to be equal to a new guest, and we'll do 163.9. There we go. So at any point in your program, if you want to reinitialize one of your objects, you can always do it this way. So it's the label or the name of the object, gets the value. We use new, which is the constructor activator, and then we reference which constructor we want to use. So Ron gets the value of a new guest. So Ron actually gets reconstructed as a new guest. So then what happens here is we are going to repeat this process. So I'm going to copy, paste. So I guess everybody decided to play a second game of, what is this called? Compare Heidi. So everyone's playing a second game after Ron drinks the polyjuice punch. So let's take a look at what happens. So Harry and Ron are the same height, and then after we do this step where we reconstruct the Ron object, now Hermione and Ron are the same height. So anyway, in this program, we took a look at what you need to do if you want to make a comparison between objects, and sometimes it's just one member of the object that we are comparing, sometimes it's multiple. And then here, how you can reconstruct things as you go through the program at any point.